Hello, friends. Let's talk about the Harry Kane situation because this might be the biggest problem I've seen in my time at Tottenham. I think it's a culmination of many things, but I've seen so many differing takes on this interview, on these stories, on these quotes, and I'm trying to be as neutral as possible. I've listened to the full interview. I have my own views on it, and I'm sure other people will disagree with me in the comments, and I'm sure people will hate my viewpoint, and I'm sure some people might resonate with it. So I'm just going to give you my honest take on the situation and my thoughts on it. And if I'm honest, I should probably even let it simmer more, but I feel like this is an urgent topic. So, first thing I'll say, Harry Kane was incredibly stupid with the timing. I don't know who planned this. I don't know what happened. Maybe his brother, I've heard. But I really do think he did not mean harm with this interview, but it is harmful. And especially the comment about how this team lacked leaders under Jose Mourinho, and that's how it failed. I think that is the main quote that sticks out to me is like, wow, that's a bit problematic, especially for his teammates. And a lot of people are saying just that quote alone, I want him out. I want him out. I think he is trying to sell himself. I think he is putting himself above Tottenham and et cetera, et cetera. I didn't read it as that. Yes, he does say, like, I think the team lacked leaders under Jose, which is why it didn't work. But I think another viewpoint you could have of that is there weren't enough of those John Terry-like players or the Harry Kane-type players that could deal with the way in which Jose Mourinho coaches. And maybe I'm being a bit too lenient to Kane there, but that's another way you can view it. I think again, it is harsh, and that is an unacceptable comment. And again, the timing of the interview is ridiculous because pretty much everything is going to lend itself to, I want to get out of Tottenham. Another quote that is being taken out of context, really, Gary Neville asks him directly, who do you think would provide you the more assists in the Premier League? Who do you think you would want to play with to get more goals? Kane answers, like any sound striker would, Kevin De Bruyne. Because, I mean, have you seen him play? But yeah, again, I think he's being set up there. And if this was a year prior to that and he said, oh yeah, I would like to play with Kevin De Bruyne without there being transfer news out there, I think people would read that a bit more sympathetically. But because of the timing and because it's right towards the end of the season, again, I think this was just weird. It does not feel like Harry Kane. Because this is the most candid he has ever spoken about most of these things. And almost too candid at most points. Like saying all this stuff about like, yeah, maybe Daniel Levy will want to sell me for $100 million. Yeah, I never said I would leave Tottenham, but I never said I would stay either. He's very much just being 100% honest. But you don't really do that when you're being linked with the transfer right now. Maybe he doesn't know. I don't know. But I don't know. The thing is, he's just being very, very honest, in my opinion. And again, too honest. So one of the big topics is he needs a conversation with the current chairman, Daniel Levy. And I 100% agree. One of the most baffling things I heard in the whole interview was how he said he was not consulted at all on the Jose Mourinho sacking, which I was like, I thought, he had a say in those things. And I feel like a lot of people operate under the assumption that Kane has an opinion on those things and he has a say in those things, but he doesn't. And it's weird that he compares his relationship with Daniel Levy only in terms of contracts that he's been given from Daniel Levy. Basically, that's the only thing he thinks he's there for. I guess he doesn't really have many intimate conversations with Levy, but the thing I'll say is he needed to have that conversation before he did this interview, because saying, oh, I need to have a conversation with the chairman about my future and my future will be in my hands, again, right before the end of the season, which could, ruffle some feathers, and, before anything is solidified and before you've had that conversation, is a bad look, in my humble opinion. You need to have that conversation with Daniel Levy. And you know what? You deserve a conversation with Daniel Levy, because I am with you here. The decision making in the club for the past 2 years has been terrible. Let's be honest here. Sacking Jose... no. Let's start from the beginning. Sacking Mauricio Pochettino, who was a beloved manager, who Kane speaks of extremely highly in this interview. Go watch it if you think otherwise. Basically saying like he worked with Pochettino. He had to work to get into Pochettino's team, compliments his gym work, compliments his mind, compliments his personality, everything. We sack Mauricio Pochettino, which at the time seemed like a pretty good move. I think Mauricio did himself a lot of wrong things before the end of his tenure here. Then we appointed Jose Mourinho, which I'm sure was a promise to Kane, we will get you trophies, because this man does that. And obviously, Kane, as he says in this interview, says, we didn't have the right players for that to work. But also, he was sacked a week before a cup final, which he is known to be good at, regardless of what was going on with Jose otherwise. And you know what? I was surprised that we sat Jose a week before a cup final as well. I thought we would stick with him, and if he lost, then he was gone. I was very shocked, much like Kane, that he was gone a week before the cup final. And then to, finally work with a manager that has no experience, is 29 years old, who he's played with for the rest of the season, is another decision which, as Harry Kane, must seem a bit weird. And I can understand why he's frustrated, especially because, again, as he alludes to, there was a time when we were competing for the title, when we were competing for the Champions League, which is where he wants to be, and now he admits we are in a rebuild zone, and I don't want to be there. And he's completely justified in thinking that. The main problem with this interview is Harry Kane is a very, very selfish person, and he's a very driven person, and he wants to do what's best for him. And yes, he loves Tottenham. He absolutely does. But also, if he knows that there's no growing at Tottenham from here on, he will want to leave. So he's going to have this conversation with the chairman. He knows the chairman probably should have invested a bit more during the Pochettino tenure. He should have made a few extra signings to push us over the ledge, and we should have been there, and we should have persisted. We were so close. And then you hire Jose to get the last scraps out of the team, and that doesn't work. Again, that's on the chairman. Then you hire Ryan Mason, that's fine. Who else do you get? But the next thing is the manager. I think that is going to decide Kane's future ultimately, whether he is going to force a move out or not. A lot of people are reading this interview as he is forcing a move out in this interview. I did not read it like that. I think he, again, is just being honest and being selfish and saying, maybe the right move for me is leaving Tottenham. But I'm not saying it is 100% sure, because I don't think he's sure himself. I really don't. Another thing that I can point to with this is that he says, I'm not desperate for trophies. I have another 8 years of my career left at the top, and I have a whole nother career left. I'm not desperate. Again, that reads to me like, if we are to grow as Tottenham again, I can stick with that. I just need to I need to see that. But again, I will say, Kane was not right to do this interview. I am sympathetic to that. I think people saying, oh, he's a traitor, oh, he just wants to force a move to City by saying, oh, I want to be with De Bruyne, and oh, I want to force a move and give Daniel Levy money or whatever. I think it's a lot of Tottenham fans being bitter and saying, well, I think I think it's a lot of Tottenham fans being bitter and reading into it what will make it easiest for them to accept so they can move on without Kane. And maybe I'm wrong there, and maybe, people are, that is what they read out of it truthfully and whatever. But again, I'm not reading this as him putting himself on the shop window. I'm reading this more as like he is at a crossroads in his career and he needs to know the future. And this interview was not the right step. He should have had this conversation with Daniel Levy behind the scenes. And I don't know why he chose to do an hour-long interview when he's not really briefed to do that. And he basically just speaks candidly about all the problems that have gone on recently. Yeah, he needs to speak with Daniel Levy first, I think, because this does, I think, if I was Dele Alli, if I was Eric Dyer, any of these people, I would be like, what are you talking about, Harry, with all this leader nonsense? Like, why did it work out, and why are you linked with the move, and why do you do this interview now? It is baffling. And again, I will say, I think Kane was naive, and he thought this was just, a media stunt, and it was just like an hour-long talk with his buddy Gary Neville. So he was really poor in his judgment here. And again, I don't think he meant any harm by it, and I don't think he was meaning to force a transfer move, but with the timing of everything, it does read like that. Another part of this interview, and why I love Kane so much, is, how driven he is. He talks about the endless hours of work. He says he spent 3 months in training just working on his left foot, and not using his right at all, which is ridiculous. He has a very big, selfish attitude, like he wants to be the best he can be. And I think that attitude lends itself to these controversial statements, but that's who he is, and that's how he is, as good as he is. But yeah, he compares himself to Michael Jordan, and he says, oh, I want to be Lionel Messi, I want to be Cristiano Ronaldo. When you want to do that, you're not going to stick around at Tottenham if you see no progress being made, and in fact see you going down the hill. So I can understand that. I love how much he backs himself. He says, yeah, I back myself. I was inspired by Michael Jordan, saying, I want to be a complete footballer. I want to be involved in the game from every aspect of play. I want to be a good defender. I want to be a good attacker. I want to be a good midfielder. I want to provide. I want to do everything, knowing that I will get the goals myself, but I also want to contribute to my teammates. I think that's extremely admirable. And with that attitude, though, does come these controversial statements where he's like, yeah, I don't know if this is the right move. Again, I will say this shouldn't have been public, because some of these are fine, being yeah, I want to be the best team player I can be, that's fine. But then going on and saying, I don't know where my future is, and I'll decide my future for myself, really. is a bit rough. Overall, though, this interview was a big reminder of the things I really, really like about Harry Kane, how driven he is, how passionate he is, how much he backs himself to succeed. He is one of the ultimate sportsmen, and he has never had things the easy way. And it also reminds me how sometimes he is flawed, and he'll buy into some of these narratives, like Jose's narratives about having winners in the team and leaders in the team, and other things in his personality that are frustrating, like how driven he is and how much he is just in it for himself. And, there's a point to where he loves Tottenham, but then there's also a point to where he values his career more than anything. And to that, I can say, I don't really blame him. I said before in my match review that we've given him the chances, and yeah, we have. But when you look at it, the team is not where it was. I don't think we've replaced people properly. I don't think we have a manager. We don't have a future plan going forward. And we need to have that to convince someone like Harry to stay. And that is the biggest indictment on Daniel Levy. I've never been hugely Levy out, but by God, you have to get things right this summer. Because otherwise, your star man, Mr. Tottenham, is going to leave. And we're going to be left with a complete mess to clean up. Yes, with a bit of money, but how do you replace Harry Kane? At the end of the day, overall statement, I think this was a dumb interview. I think he shouldn't have done it. I think he should speak to Daniel Levy. I think he should apologize to his teammates. I think this never should have aired. I think, Kane will ultimately stay at Tottenham, but also maybe he should, I don't know, maybe he should leave if his head's not in it at Tottenham and he doesn't believe we can do things here. It's a lot. This is a lot. And any viewpoint you have on this, I'm welcome to hear it. And this is just my views on it. And I hope it gives you some, closure. But yeah, I love hearing other people's viewpoints. I've been swayed to think, oh yeah, Harry Kane is the villain here, and he is a little bit, in my opinion. And I've been swayed to think, hey, let's throw some of this back on Daniel Levy for not backing the team. There's so many viewpoints that are valid here, and there's so many ways you can read into this interview. And yeah, that's where we are. We're a mess right now, and we have a game on Sunday. Come on, you Spurs. That's where I'll leave it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Leave a like if you enjoyed. I'll see you next time for hopefully a win and a Harry Kane hat trick and him ripping off his shirt saying, "I'm staying." See ya.